This is Prison Tycoon. You build and manage a prison. The name kind of explains itself. Prison Tycoon was published by ValuSoft. This is a telltale sign of quality. I've talked about ValuSoft a bunch of times in the past, so for this video, I'm just going to say that they specialized in budget titles. The game was developed by Virtual Playground, who we'll see again in this series. They made several management games. Apparently they made a game called Homeland Defense National Security Patrol, where you managed the US-Mexico border? This looks insane. Don't worry, I bought it for like $3, and it's probably already arrived by the time this video comes out. So, you ready to take a long look at Prison Tycoon? Just action-packed Prison Tycoon coverage? Well, welcome to the game. In free mode, you pick from 3 locations: California, Texas, and New York. The differences are very minor. The buildings change style, the amount and shape of land is somewhat different, and lastly, each level has its own song that will play on repeat. That's what's playing in the background, and I'm going to leave it for the whole video, just so you can suffer like I suffered while grabbing this footage. I swear when there's a moment of silence, like right before the track repeats, I just feel a sense of serenity. The silence is only very brief as the song repeats almost immediately, but it's like the only thing that keeps me from drowning in this dark reality. You may think I'm being over dramatic, but don't worry, we're going to get to how bad this game is. I always pick Texas because the inmates have to be flown in. It's in the middle of nowhere around these old pumps. This kind of reminds me of Con Air. You start with a bunch of cash and that's about it. You were told the controls, but nothing else. I played this as a kid. In fact, this is my childhood copy. How in the world kid me figured out how to play this is beyond me. It came out in 2005, so I was 9 years old. The game explains what some buildings do, but doesn't explain others. And even when it does explain it, there's no like modifiers or anything like that. Like, do the prisoners prefer a certain kind of bed or exercise equipment? Does putting a TV in the dormitory do anything? What do all the admin buildings do? Does the church do anything? Does the priest have a purpose? It's all just a guessing game. Sure, you can get clues by watching the animations or checking the inmate's mood, but that doesn't help you a whole lot. I got curious and looked up a guide. Every game has a fan, so surely there was something. Well, in 2008, a user wrote a definitive Prison Tycoon guide. It's missing the challenges section, but I don't care about that game mode. It's kind of busted anyway. When I play this game, I build everything. I assume everything has a use, so I make sure my prison has literally everything. Because of this soul-dying person, I learned a lot of things I was never able to figure out. Clerical offices reduce maintenance costs, the tool room spawns a mechanic who does actually fix stuff, the priest blesses inmates, which makes them less violent or something, therapy actually calms the inmates down. But even with this knowledge, the game is still garbage. When the game starts, you need to build some beds for the inmates, right? At first, you can only build low-risk security buildings, and you can raise this limit later by increasing your security rating. And you can do that just by building a bunch of guard towers or guard rooms in the admin building. So you build a dormitory of whatever size you choose, pick whatever bed you want. I usually go with the bunks, and now you can accept inmates. But you can't control how many you take at a time. You could make an argument that, that's realistic. There's only so much crime that's being committed, and you just can't say, hey, I want 20 inmates. But I imagine that, there's more people causing crime than just 2. Inmates make you money. You need inmates. You can build factories to make the prison money. Inmates released on parole leads to charities donating to your prison. Don't question it. The fact that the number of incoming inmates is always low makes the game very slow. 70% of my footage is this. I'd walk away from the desktop and periodically check back to make a decision about parole. I'd always grant parole, by the way. It's a guaranteed charity donation. Sometimes the inmates don't work in the factories. Not really sure what motivates them, but yeah, just release them. Once you have every building you need, this game becomes super boring. You're going to do a lot of just sitting, waiting, and watching the inmates do their daily routine. In Prison Tycoon, nothing happens except for the occasional fight, which has the same animation every single time. You right-click on an inmate and get some details like age, sentence time, and if they're a part of a gang, but other than that, nothing. Sure, inmates have moods, but checking it doesn't really influence your decisions because after a while you'll have everything an inmate could want. Maybe he's mad that the large rec field features an interesting statue. This game is kind of dark in more ways than one, but I'll let you discover that on your own if you ever decide to play this trash. You aren't told what they did to land in prison, so it removes some of the impact. Like, it doesn't create any kind of conflict or any backstory. Like, sure, they may be part of a gang, but all that will do is initiate the same kinds of fights over and over again. And knowing that they're a part of a gang really doesn't do anything. It's like, is this a gang I should be scared of? Or is this like, you know, some kind of petty street gang where they just steal cars or TVs or something? You get no inmate drama, there's no stories, there's no nothing. You can't really feel attached to these people. Even if you play this game long enough to where you have maximum security inmates, it doesn't change how they act. It makes them a little harder to calm down, but other than that, it's the same thing over and over again. Besides inmate violence and drama and all that, there's also nothing to manage. You can't control wages like Tropico. Unlike Theme Hospital, you don't have staff asking for raises. You don't manage the prison's budget. You know how you have to like manage the park's budget in Roller Coaster Tycoon? Once that building is slapped down and a staff member is mobile, there is nothing left. Sure, this building's cost maintenance, but that's about it. You can't, like, you know, cut corners by not replacing broken furniture or something. There's no assigning guards to a routine path, no optimizing inmate traffic. You can't really force them to travel in a specific way. You can't ban them from a certain part of the prison. You can build walls, but that's not really a solution. That's more like cattle herding, and even then it's a little buggy. The time moves, but there's no day-night cycle, so there's no, like, you know, doing lights out time and making sure all the inmates get back to their cells. The city builders and tycoon games have been around for a while before this game got released. The features I mentioned are not groundbreaking or ahead of the time. Lastly, this game throws information at you without having any weight. What makes an inmate high risk? Every now and again you'll get news at the bottom of the screen, but it's not helpful. Local newspaper wrote about your prison. Okay, is that good? Bad? What did it say? How should I take that? Why can't it just show a quick news clipping? That would create some drama. This game just sucks. All this is just a visual representation. The game just looks for numbers and makes sure you have a certain amount of things and it produces a result. It's like playing Hearts of Iron or something where the visuals are just a placeholder. And that would be fine if there was something to manage. I don't need my strategy or management games to have, you know, complex drama or story. But when there's nothing to manage and you're just sitting here staring at the prison, it'd be nice if something were to happen. But no. Nothing happens. There is a list of cheats. I looked it up and most are the usual give yourself money kind of thing. But what interested me the most was the speed cheats. The game moves at a painstakingly slow rate. With cheats you can go much faster, but it really doesn't help. When I first recorded this game, I struggled financially, but this was because I was bored. I got sick of waiting for inmates, so I started buying all the buildings and stuff to keep myself from going crazy. If you go in the red, you can't buy anything new, but the game never straight up fails you, so it's just an infinite purgatory. This series will exclusively look at management or tycoon games. I love them, but I'm also horrible at them. Thought it'd be fun to take a look at this genre from someone who isn't really an expert, more of a casual player who barely manages to finish a game without going bankrupt. Prison Tycoon will be one of the few games where I'm not really truly having a hard time succeeding, hence why I picked it for more of this nostalgic reasons. So we'll say it fits because it barely manages to be a game. If you pick up this terrible product somehow and end up playing it, you might struggle at first, but once you understand the correct order of buildings you should be building and when to build them, it's easy peasy. And I know that sounds complex, but it really isn't. It's like playing a game of chess versus an opponent who makes the same moves every time. Eventually, you're going to figure out how to take them out. This game throws nothing new at you. There's no random occurring events. There's no natural disasters. You don't have to manage electricity or anything like that. Which brings me to a good alternative. If your dream is to run a prison, 1, why? And 2, I have a good game for you. Prison Architect is a pretty good game. I have it on Steam. I have about 24 hours in it. I know that's not a whole lot in the world of strategy and management games, but I really suck at this game. It's definitely not perfect, especially when Paradox got a hold of it, but it's probably the best prison management game that I know of right now. I'm Elijah Moon Blackwell with CD-ROM Fossil, and this has been Prison Tycoon, part of the Barely Managing series. And yeah, this will coincide with late 90s PC gaming, and they'll kind of go hand in hand. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you want to see any games in the comments below. And see you in the next episode.